Well, howdy, y'all. It's Frightman, and I am here to keep you spooktacular. If you keep up with the channel, you know that on Halloween night I used my Foganator 3000 out in the yard on Lethal Lily, and I did a big foggers no. I let that thing run out of fog juice.
Oh
No,
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 no, no. So
no!
there's some damage that was done, and in today's video, we're going to see if we can bring smoking back in style. Now, before we dive into that fog machine, a couple important things. Number one, this video assumes that you have some basic electrical knowledge. Number two, do not do anything that I am doing with your fog machine plugged in. So when using a fog machine, the main thing is never to let your container run out of juice. Well, that's exactly what happened on Halloween. So this is my Foganator 3000 that we're looking at today. All right, that's just a joke. I think a Foganator 3000 would be a cool name for a fog machine, but this one is actually called the YY900A from Amazon. So I'm going to put the microphone down here by the fog machine, and we are going to hit fog. That sound, my friends, is the last thing you want to hear from any fog machine. The main thing here is figuring out which of these panels, back, side, bottom, do you have to get to find the pump. And that takes a little bit of just looking around. It shouldn't be that hard. But on this guy, I found that the side panel removes very easily. And with the side panel removed, you can find the pump right here. This is the heater core. So how a fog machine works is you have a thermostat, a heater core, and this pump. The only things that can really go out is the thermostat, the heater core can get clogged, and the pump will get destroyed pretty quickly if you let it run out of fog juice. Now when trying to replace the pump, there's a few things going on. So first of all, you have the intake hose that goes from the fog juice container to the pump. You have the output connection, which is right here, which this pipe will run to the heater core. And then you have screws that are going to attach the pump to the case. I've already taken those screws off. I've already taken off the hose for the fog juice. And what's left is to take off this connector that runs this to the heater core. Now, I'm going to go ahead and use a monkey wrench to go ahead and get this off. Using a wrench to unsecure this bolt should not be that hard. And at some point, once you get it loosened up, you'll be able to use your fingers to go ahead and finish that unscrewing of this bolt here. So we'll do that. And then you can see that the metal tube runs into the pump, and it also has a rubber gasket. We're going to be pulling the tube off of the pump. We're going to go ahead and leave the rubber gasket on the pump itself. So we have the pump in hand, two wires coming off of it. I've left the rubber gasket onto the pump. Here is that nut. The two wires are going down to the thermostat mechanism. And this is what that metal tube will look like that runs down into your heater core, where the output from the fog juice goes into right here. So when looking at the pump, there's a couple things that are important to find a replacement pump. Number one is the design of this output tube. So there's two styles of these pumps. One, the output tube is like this. The other is it's a straight going out. So you want to know, do you have the curved or do you have the straight? Once you do that, looking at the label, you should be able to determine what is the volt or the wattage on this. So this is an 18 watt pump. So doing a quick search on Amazon for fog machine pump 18 watts, I have found this replacement pump. Now the output on this one here is plastic. Not super thrilled about that, but it'll do the job. The two wires here are actually using slip-on connectors. The pump that I have today in the fog machine is using these type of connectors. So we're going to have to disconnect the two wires here coming from the pump. It's important to remember there's a black and a yellow, because we're going to have to put those exactly back the same way to these. So we're going to undo these two caps. We're going to remove this pump, put the new pump into these wires, and possibly use these caps again, or I may have to use wire caps. Let's see. So the new pump yellow wire has one of these connectors on it. That is not going to work attaching over here to the wire that we have disconnected. So we're going to be cutting this off. This is the heater core, and this is your thermostat. On this thermostat, you can see they actually use those type of connections that I just cut off of my pump. So before you cut those connections off of your pump, make sure that you look to see how those wires are actually connected. Again, in my case, it just uses wire caps. But there's the potential that you may be able to just simply slide those connectors right back on to somewhere else if they did not use the wire caps as a method of connecting these wires. So I do still have that red attached, but the yellow has been detached with that wire cap. These caps are not made to be reused again, that I can tell you. So as a replacement, I'm just going to be using standard wire caps. In my box of junk, I found some small ones. We're going to need to strip this wire down just a little bit, connect the new yellow wire from our new pump here, and put on that wire cap. Then we will repeat the same process with the black wire. So we have that old pump completely disconnected. I have used or removed the cap, or the, I guess I'll call it a nut, that came on the fog machine with this particular pump, and I slid that off of the input. And I also told you to keep the seal here in that pump, and the reason for that is because different pumps have different type of seals. So we're not going to be using this seal on our replacement pump, as the replacement pump comes with its own seal, which is just a tad bit different. All I'm trying to say is you want to use the seal that came with your new pump and the nut that came with the new pump. So this is what the new wiring looks like with my wiring caps. This one is on extremely well. This one is a tad bit loose and I can't tighten it up all the way. I'm going to go ahead and use some black electrical tape just to put around here. I feel very good about these connections, but just as added security, a little black electrical tape put around here will keep this nut from coming loose. So we put that black electrical tape around each of these nuts. I'm going to go ahead and use a zip tie just to kind of neatly hold all this together. What you don't want is wires going down and touching this heater core. This is where all the magic happens. Oh, it's been unplugged for about 20 minutes and this thing is still hot, hot, hot. Now we have just a simple zip tie here, holding all of those wires away from the heater core, and we're just going to snip off the extra of that zip tie. So again, this is the input going to the heater core from the pump. We're going to be using that new nut. We're going to take the new pump and slide that right into this input tube. We'll screw the nut onto the pump here. On this end, we're going to take off this rubber protective cap. We'll be putting the intake hose back on here, and we're going to use a zip tie just to hold that on. So I use my trusty wrench on this nut to ensure that it's nice and tight. You want this to be on secure and not loose, but not over tightened. Again, in this case, this is a plastic housing. This is just a brass. If you over tighten this, you're going to strip it out and then you're going to hate yourself. By the way, these replacement pumps on Amazon, they're about 15 bucks. So we have now slid this new, or the rubber tube, over the new pump, and I use the zip tie to secure that to the pump, and we're just going to cut off this extra long piece of the zip tie. Let's do a final check and a final review of everything that we did before we start the reassembly process. So we have placed the yellow and black wire back where they came from. We've added on the wire caps. We added a little electrical tape just to make sure that these wire caps do not twist. We used a twist tie to hold all of this up and away from this heater core. We have attached the new tube. We've tightened up the nut here. We used the new seal in here that came with this pump. I did go ahead and trim off a tad bit of this rubber hose because rubber can get stretched out. So before I reattach this, I cut off probably 1/8 of an inch, and we used a zip tie just to secure that in. So we're really ready to secure this pump here to the 2 holes on the base. And then after we do that, we're going to put the cover back on the machine and cross our fingers. So the pump is nice and secure here, and it's time to go ahead and attach the exterior plate back on and attach that with the screws that we have removed. All right, we have that cover put back on. I'm feeling pretty good about this. We have it plugged in and waiting to heat up to see what's going to happen. Remember, do not do what I did. Do not let your machine run out of fog juice, because that will kill these pumps in a heartbeat. Speaking of pumps, there are some people that actually take these things apart and repair them. I'm going to hang on to this. I'm going to put that rubber seal back in and put the cap back on and hang on to it. I may experiment with that. I've never tried. At 15 bucks, just pulling it out and putting in a new one is a pretty good thing for me. But I think I might use this as an experiment to see if I can actually repair it. As we wait for this guy to warm up, 2 things are going through my mind. One is, did I just tack on $15 more for something that's going to get thrown away? Or did I just save myself 100 bucks by repairing this? I did hear the heater core or the thermostat kick in, so this should be ready to go. We're about to hit fog here and cross our fingers.
3, 2, 1.
So I would... Oh, wow. I'm so excited. Yay, we have fog. So we have replaced that pump. The fog is looking really good. I'm excited. Guys, this is your $15 fix when your fog machine pump goes out. So the final takeaways, do not let this get empty when you run your fog machine. This is a great fog machine to work on. A few bolts here, or a few screws here and on the bottom. Everything is very easily accessible once this panel is off. Well, I don't know about you, but I am pretty excited that I got that fog machine working back like it was on day one for only 15 bucks. Again, when you're looking on Amazon, look for fog machine pumps. Make sure that you know the wattage that you need. And then the last thing is your pump output straight, or is it going to be with that curve? That's very important. So I hope you learned something. Maybe you'll repair your own fog machine. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. All of those are really important to us. And until next time, stay spooky, my friends.